The Hedge Resourceman here. It's November the 2nd, 2022. In this video, I'll discuss some recent news and also try to explain how I like to visualize the risk reward or the upside. For example, in a case, I mean, it's a very simple way to go about it, but it at least ensures or tries to ensure that I, keep conviction and actually tend to, hold out, keep the fortitude and preferably buy when something goes lower. Anyway, first off, you've probably seen this. Pure Gold Mining announces transfer of listing from TS6 Venture Exchange to the NEX, whatever that is. Anyway, it seems that, they're seeking protection under the Companies Creditors Arrangement Act. Basically, it appears that Pure Gold Mining is going bankrupt. I'm not an expert in corporate finance, sadly, so can't say too much more than that. But I think the shares are down to, last I checked, I think it was trading at 1.5 cents. And I saw an article like I think Eric Sprott is set to lose 60-70 million or something. I mean, this is not unique. I mean, I think I've counted around 8 juniors in the last 12 months or so that either tried to get into production or were in production, and things turned south. I mean, obviously, I think a lot has to do with cost inflation everywhere, and not enough access to capital, let's say, and oftentimes, like I believe in this case. I'm assuming the mine plan, what you call it, was a bit wrong. At least that's what I've read. That the grades they used was at a width that couldn't be mined. They had to mine way wider than the model suggested. So they brought in a bunch of extra dilution. I mean, we saw extra dilution, for example, in the case of Novo Resources. And it might be I might be actually thinking about Arcana in this case. But anyway, it's like another one bites the dust. That's just how it is. And typically, I mean, if there's one thing a lot of people seem to enjoy, it's seeing other people besides themselves lose money. In my opinion, it's like, I have no idea really if this was a bad case. I think Mark O'Day, an insider, he bought shares. Not a huge bunch, but he bought some shares like a week or 2 weeks ago or something like that. So it's like, who knows? But it's again, in hindsight, everything is 100% crystal clear. We only see what happened. We didn't see what could have happened. Etc. So again, it's like, fortunately I didn't own this stock. I actually did a video where I talked about turnaround cases 6 months ago or so, and I thought, well, of Pure Gold Mining, I don't see a really compelling risk reward. But and basically my rationale is like, there's too many unknowns in that this case. I think it was trading at 25 cents back then. And my point in this one was that, I mean, there are stocks that have created value and have gone down. And obviously, Pure Gold Mining was running into big troubles, as you can see with this drop here, and had probably been for a few months already. So you can't. I like to catch falling knives. I love buying, stuff that has crashed. I love buying during a crash. But my point in this video was that, in this case, it's obvious that it hasn't I mean, it's not like value stayed flat and the share price just went down. No, it went down in this case primarily because it appears that, you know, what was there on paper didn't translate to reality, at least, you know, in this day and age. You know, it was hard to say what kind of price to value gap you would have. I mean, preferably you would have an increasing value and decreasing price, so an increasing price to value gap, which we see in a lot of juniors today. I simply think that, you know, this might turn into one of those value traps. And besides, I mean, everybody pretty much knew they were going to have to raise a lot of money, etc. So I think actually it was trading back then at a market cap of 122 or something. So it's like you knew that even if they diluted and turned it around, there wouldn't be, I mean, the upside wouldn't be that extraordinary. And there was considerable risk for bankruptcy. So I didn't think the risk reward made sense. And of course, now we see that, I mean, they did go bankrupt. But again, I didn't know that. I couldn't possibly know that. It's just, again, always down to the risk reward, and that's why I don't think you should, you know, take results personally in any given, you know, stock. The only thing you can do is try to learn from it. But it's like if you win, you shouldn't be care too much about that, because then you have to care about losers, etc. And we can't have a lot of baggage. You know, with us, because the past is the past anyway. It's like meaningless except from the lessons you draw, etc. Yeah, just a few, I guess, comments on this stuff. But I mean, hey, I have, you know, some juniors that are down 90% or more, so it's like that's not too far off from bankruptcy anyway. So, but hopefully nobody was all in, at least. And, you know, could potentially make it back, given that there excuse me, there's a lot of other cheap stuff out there. Newfound Gold, news out today. Yet another discovery. High grade, thin widths, which is kind of, you know, kind of typical unless you hit the, you know, cluster where a lot of veins connect, etc. But it's like still. Even at diluted in this case, over 2.35 meter, that's, you know, 33 grams per ton, and yeah, we don't know what the true widths are, but it's like this is up here, a lot of north. So I mean, an obvious conclusion is just that, I mean, I think they still have like 14 drill rigs going. And there's obviously a bunch of gold here, very high grade up to bonanza, but it tends to be, unless you hit, you know, some the clusters, it tends to be narrow. So it's like, and that's, I think, the main pet peeve or worry people have with Newfound Gold. I mean, because again, it's like you've seen examples where people try to mine narrow vein deposits, and you know, some have not worked out, but there are mines in the world that are very narrow and work out. I mean, Mandalay Resources, Costerfield, I think their operation down in Australia, I think they have like 0.35 meter veins. I'm not 100% sure, but there are for sure very narrow vein deposits that can be mined. I mean, the neighbor to Line 1, what's the name of that one? I don't remember what it's called, but it's been mined for 70 years, very narrow veins. So this will be a, you know, I don't know how long it will persist, but it's like, yes, there's a cloud over the Newfound Gold story, but it's like if especially, I mean, if they could make this work, I mean, they're coming up with, you know, quite a few zones now of high grade to bonanza grade gold in obviously one of the best jurisdictions around. So yeah, I mean, if they would turn some of this into, you know, a faster wheel type operation, you know, at least the very thick zones, you know, I think it could be worth a lot. And I don't expect these guys to stop growing anytime soon. But again, it's like, yes, there's obviously a wet blanket over the share price because they keep drilling, etc., and it has stayed kind of flat. It appears, I think it's kind of bottoming out, but not for I'm not 100% sure about that, but I do think that's the case, and I know it's like it's still a top 10 position in Crescat Capital. Another one, Brixton Metals announced second. No, this wasn't that. Here. Brixton Metals secures strategic investment from BHP. BHP is the largest mining company in the entire world. So you can just guess what would how big a potential price would be for these guys to get involved. There's, I mean, from a size perspective, there is not a single company in the mining space that would project a bigger vote of confidence than BHP, simply because they are the ones who need the largest projects in the world to make it worth their time. And I think the stock opened up at 18 cents or so. I already have a position in Brixton, thanks to Quinton Henny and Crescat Capital, and I owned them years back. But then I got back into them after listening, seeing their, Quinton going through their copper hits, and I mean that they might have a alkaline gold system, and they are also drilling another copper porphyry target, I think, right now. I don't remember the name of that. And anyways, so they have like a legit gold target. They appear to have, they have one legit copper gold porphyry target, which they've already drilled like 800 meters of 0.5 or something copper equivalent, and they have more targets on top of that, and they have a huge land position. I think one of the largest, if not the largest, in British Columbia, north of the Golden Triangle. I was like, just think about that. I mean, in this day and age, or times like this, I mean, positive news gets discounted by 90% or so. Bad news gets discounted by 110%. So it's like, which I, been saying over these last months or over a year perhaps, low sentiment is really good for buying value with little risk. Because typically, when nobody wants to buy anything, nobody wants to take risk, if positive things happen that jack up the implied value of some of these junior by, who knows, maybe 50% or more, they might respond. Well, some are neutral, but some might respond with a 5% update. It's like to have BHP give a thumbs up to what these guys are doing. That is just incredible in my opinion. Obviously, better access to capital as well, because there's no warrants in this financing. So it's like I saw that. I already have. I mean a kind of small position in Brixton, but quite large for being this kind of pre-discovery place, because me, I tend to not be very deep into pre-discovery place anymore, unless there's very good reason, let's say. But I jacked up my position in the open market when I saw it trade up at 18 cents, I think, by 50%. So it's not a huge position, but I think it's up to, I don't know, maybe, who knows, 2-3% or something, which is kind of large for a pre-discovery play in my book. But it's like, you see BHP, you see the stock up 8%. I'm pretty sure this is worth a lot more than 8%, because that translates to, I don't know, it's like 3 million Canadian or something in added price. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember what it was trading at or is trading at, but it's like it doesn't take, in my opinion, a genius to like, okay, if the whole company is trading at 40-50 million, the BHP just now got involved. That means that right now BHP thinks there's, you know, a decent shot of them finding, or you know, whatever they would be looking for. So I mean that's the hot off the presses, the, you know, some fresh vote of confidence, thumbs up from the largest mining company in the world. So I immediately just bought. I mean, that's also an edge. I mean, it might come down. I have no idea, but it's like to quickly evaluate, like, what does this news mean? What does this news mean? And sometimes the market won't care at all. Sometimes it might overcare, let's say. But I don't think 8% plus is, you know, caring too much or overpricing the significance of this. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, that about sums it up. Inflection Resources recently put out, this is a kind of a sleeper stock. Inflection Resources plans deeper follow-up drilling on Duck Creek target. I actually talked to Alistair yesterday, and because again, this is also like gold, copper, porphyry stuff akin to what Brixton is drilling. This is in Australia, not in Canada, and it's very hard to appreciate, you know, hydrothermal alteration halos. You know, these units exhibit feldspar, sericite, tourmaline, actinolite, pyrite alteration. I mean, that tells me almost nothing. But I mean, they do state considered geologically and analogous to that often seen in the upper parts of alkalic porphyry systems, including Newcrest Mining's Cadia East deposit. I mean, the Cadia East deposit, or the Cadia complex, that's, you know, the largest gold mine. I mean, it's a copper gold cluster of deposits, but it has so much gold that it's the largest gold mine in Australia, even though it's a copper gold complex. And I talked to Alistair, and they encountered bornite. This is a very high grade copper mineral. I mean, this is obviously, you know, a bleb of it, but I think bornite is somewhere around 40% copper or something, higher than the what's it called? I don't remember. You know, the green stuff that is typically seen in copper deposits. Is it, yeah, chalcopyrite? No. Forget it. You know, brain fart right now. And apparently the North Parks is another very large copper gold deposit, and not far from Cadia and not too far away from Inflection Resources, where they're drilling in New South Wales. And that, at least one of those deposits apparently had blebs of bornite above the pay zone. So yeah, this is, I mean, they are getting obviously more encouraged by this. I mean, this round of shallow drilling is increasing their confidence in this target, and that's why they plan up deep diamond drilling, or deeper follow-up diamond drilling on Duck Creek target. And don't forget, these guys are the ones that's like, their whole approach is, first of all, they have, you know, they have ex-Rio Tinto, BHP guys, etc. And, you know, insiders own like, I don't know, 40%, 30% of the company. And they don't mess around. I mean, they have already drilled, I don't know how many targets. As soon as they don't get see what, you know, the alteration, etc., that they are hoping to see from a target, they just move on. I don't remember what target number this is. So they've already plowed through a bunch of targets, but they have, beyond this, they have like 11 more high priority targets, I think, and there might be more. So when they stop and, you know, do follow-up stuff, I mean, there's a reason for that, and this target actually is the only target where they have encountered bornite. So it's like, yes, there's a reason why they're staying here and are gonna spend more money drilling this deeper, the left eye here, as I call it. And what is also noteworthy is that these Maglos here, I mean, they believe, I mean, it appears that there's something here. I mean, they're hitting copper, they're hitting porphyry mineralization, so this might be a copper porphyry body. This might also be one, because they tend to show up in clusters, and maybe this as well, etc. And again, the largest complexes like Katie and I think North Parks as well, they have actually multiple porphyries. And that goes for the big mine that, or the big deposit complex of deposits that Barrick bought in Kazakhstan or wherever it was recently. That's how you get a real monster. And it's like market cap 15 million. It's like I have a decent position in this, and by decent I mean from the perspective of pre-discovery play. Maybe half of what I have in Brixton now. This is a very high risk, high reward story still. The thing again is, I mean, the entire thesis is that, I mean, if they take the case of Brixton Metals, with BHP getting in there, they're saying this might be, you might have something that is worth at least 1 billion, because otherwise they would never bother with Brixton Metals, and that's the scale that these the target scale that these guys are looking for in Inflection Resources as well. So it's like, what chance of success is priced in for the Duck Creek target of finding something worth, let's say, at least 500 million? I mean, that's 15 undiluted though, 15 divided by 500 million, whatever that is. 15 divided by 500. Yeah, that's a 3% chance priced in. Is that fair or not? I don't know. It's like, it's certainly not 93%. But it's like, yes, theoretically, if there's even a 3% chance that they find something that is would be worth 500 million, that that would be fairly priced right now. If it's 5%, I mean, it's undervalued right now. If there's 3% of finding something worth 1 billion, it's actually also undervalued right now. But the thing is, again, it's like a store like this and a market cap like this is a high risk, high reward. Most of these will not work out. It's just that some of these will work out. But again, the thing is, if they do, I don't treat this as a discovery holes. If they find make a discovery hole, for example, maybe the stock opens up 100% or more. In let's say they drill and we get results in 3 months or whatever. That is not that is in that case the beginning of something. Like BHP buying into Brixton right now. It's not the end for Brixton. Their journey of going towards whatever might be of interest to BHP, that is pretty much just begun. I mean, they have a few holes into their copper porphyry. So that is why I am keeping I'm letting this Inflection Resources story ride. I actually have added a bit today, very small amount. I think these 12,000 shares are actually mine. But I'm not going big just yet. This is very encouraging. I might end up buying some more, but the thing is again that it actually went up yesterday on the news. The thing is that the odds of success have gone up with this news release. But that might be from 5% to 8%. So, on that kind of order of magnitude. So it's not a better form in my opinion, but I think this is one of there's several others like what is this, like BCM. Bell Copper, etc. It's like, yeah, they might have something, and it might be a good bet now, but it's like typically I am have them mostly on the watch list, but oftentimes a starter position to keep me following it, etc. But the thing is, if you're familiar with a story, you look through the I don't know, capital structure, or at least the people involved, insider ownership, etc. If you're familiar with the team, or comfortable with the team of Inflection Resources, etc., that they're competent and yada yada yada. I mean, if you get a news release of a discovery hole, you pretty much know that it's not some random re-drilling some old hole, etc., because these guys are serious. So whatever they put out, that is not going to be a pump and dump, if you know what I mean. So that's, I think, an edge. It's like that you already know, if you have a company on the watch list, you already are familiar with the teams. Like Bell Copper, they have Tim Marsh or whatever his name is. That's a legit mine finder, legit porphyry mine finder. So he's not gonna blow smoke up anyone's ass. And if you're comfortable with a guy like that heading that, so in the case Bell Copper, let's say they make a big discovery hole. And I mean, some might say they have a discovery hole, I guess, already, even though it was kind of low grade, but they haven't hit bullseye. But it's like, just knowing that, so if they put out a hole like that, it's like, that a guy like Tim Marsh probably wouldn't waste his time and money going for something that he didn't think was worth it. So when they hit something, it's probably might be a big one, because he's a guy that goes after big targets, and the same goes for the people involved in Inflection, in my opinion. Novo Resources, Bearden's Creek updated mineral resource estimate. From my understanding, I mean, a bunch of this stuff I don't really let's say understand. It appears that the grades have gone up here at least, but ounces are way down. I mean, they're at 250,000 ounces right now, and I think, I mean, they put it on care and maintenance, I'm pretty sure. Been deferred due to current uncertain economic regulatory conditions affecting the project, and Bearden's Creek is being transitioned into care and maintenance as a result. So I think this makes a lot of sense, because why? It's like, okay, if you've taken a haircut on the resource, why spend a lot of money before you have, in this case, more mill feed? Because, I mean, the plant, it's not just suited for conglomerate deposits. It was actually built for what Millennium was mining. So it seems to me that, like, yes, that makes sense. That's like, put that on care and maintenance, try to preserve cash as much as possible. And in my opinion, the natural thing would be, and I think that's where they're going, that it's now becoming, after this news release and the new mineral resource, and that I would say is a letdown, negative, and they're transitioning the Bearden's Creek to care and maintenance. So this makes Novo Resources pretty much a cashed up explorer again. That's how I see it. I think they have around 60 to 65 million or something. They have like almost 20 million in equities, etc. So it's almost like it's gone fully or full circle back to an exploration company. First it was you probably remember the conglomerate story. That's obviously been very difficult, and I think there's been big hurdles with COVID and the aboriginals of dealing with the edge now, which is not, which is more alluvial. But I mean, it wasn't. We would obviously have preferred that Beaton's Creek could be mined economically. These, narrow reefs, and that would be proof of concept for conglomerates. Conglomerate production with today's technology and today's gold price, etc. Obviously, that didn't happen with Beaton's Creek. And I mean, you see right now, again, it's like you see pure gold mine. You see a lot of conventional up-and-coming producers fail with it. Fortunately, Novo is far from bankrupt with the cash they have. So again, I think this has turned into a grassroots exploration story with a, I don't know, $300 mill. So I really don't know what Novo is going to look like in a year, because I don't know what kind of discoveries will come. We know that Beecher, the Hemi type target, I mean, that looks encouraging based on the air core. Who knows? That might be a company maker. I just don't know, because it's way too early, and they're drilling other targets as well. So right now I think it's cheap, since the people involved are still good. I mean, they're highly competent. Michael Spreadborough, he's a mining engineer, and you get Quinton and you get Castelluca, which are big brains from a geology perspective. So I certainly feel this is one of the better, let's say, grassroots exploration stores out there. And we have Talga and other stuff. I would like some more, get some more clarification of what's gonna happen, let's say. So I'm not diving in here, but I certainly don't think it's expensive. And hopefully they'll make a discovery at this Beecher target, and it's time to plow in again. I'm again more in a wait and see type scenario, but I wouldn't, I think this is for sure not the riskiest junior around, because they have that cash, that they have the capital to actually test a bunch of targets, unlike most juniors who are also in early stage exploration stage, but they don't really have much more money than to test one target, let's say. And then just how I think about some, to keep conviction, etc. I mean, I during the weekend I just sat down and was like, I should really visualize for myself and potentially to other people. It's like, really calculate, because right now you can't trust Mr. Market at all. I mean, that's the gist of it. It's like they are not fairly pricing anything. Mr. Market is not fairly pricing anything right now. So when I just think about it, it's like, okay, you have Goliath. It's like it looks, based on the visuals from this year's drilling, it looks like it's getting a bit thicker on average. They seem to be hitting all over the place. And if you do some rough calculations, etc., you can easily come up with an, inferred target of 5 to 7 million ounces, and with a lot of blue sky on top of that, because it's wide open in multiple directions. They have more targets. They have the potential new Shurbits. Well, they have the east extension, and then they have the gold swarm outcrop. So this might, at the end of the day, this might be 10 million ounces or more inferred in 3-4 years or something. It's just that we will have a pretty good sense of the quality of the Shurbit zone just from this upcoming drilling, because they're going to have drilled a huge area. So this is one of those juniors that is going to possibly do a quantum leap from a de-risking standpoint and upside standpoint. Again, because they're drilling wide-spaced very long step outs, and they almost hit something in every hole. So it might be pretty obvious that this is at least a 5 million ounce high grade system after we get just this year's results back. In that case, if we look at like Great Bear, I mean, I think that got sold at, we don't know what the resource was, but many people speculated. I think it was around 8 million ounces or something. And I think it came down to like, $180 per ounce when Kinross acquired it. So, I mean, this might be not too far off from Great Bear. I mean, I think it's a reasonable shot, actually. And in that case, it's like, okay, if I think there's a pretty reasonable, like, I don't know, 70% chance that this is at least going to have 5 million ounces, and you consider the fact that, okay, if this, because it looks like great metallurgy and grade thickness, underground, gravity assistance, probably or possibly, not far away at all, really, from at least the Dolly Warden Road, and I think there's a possibility of doing, some, barge shipment because there's a river nearby, and it might not require much capital because it is high grade underground, easy metallurgy, etc. So who knows what the economic value per ounce would be, or the take-or price, but I'm guessing at least 150 to maybe more than that, because at the end of the day, what companies are willing to pay is of course what they think the profit per ounce will be, or how valuable an ounce is. So the characteristics of this system with the metallurgy, etc., and possibly grades and width, and gravity assistance and jurisdiction, etc., I think it could fetch a very high price, especially if it becomes really large. I mean, typically, if it becomes almost a kind of unique deposit, that's something majors pay up for. I mean, if this is turns out to be 7 to 10 million ounces, I mean, that's a flagship mine that could produce possibly hundreds of thousands of ounces for many years. I simply think Goliath is extraordinarily undervalued in my opinion, and that this is what I use, because I got FOMO today because it broke out of the bull pennant. It broke out of this larger wedge. It actually came up above this high here as well, and now we're seeing some selling, but that looks ripe to head higher, let's say, because if the results are in line with what I think they will be, I think the current valuation is gonna look really, really low. So I actually got some FOMO today when I saw it breaking out, so I added more. And FOMO typically is not a good idea, but the thing is that, okay, I'm having short-term FOMO, but long-term or short to medium-term rational greed in my book. Because there's no way, in my opinion, that I'm overpaying for it even if I bought the top today. So that's very comforting. It's like I think that this is already cheap, even at the highs here, etc. Not investing advice. It's just it's one of my largest positions. Snowline Gold. I've been playing around with this, and I just looked at some monster acquisitions. They're priced at I think 290 per ounce to 380 per ounce for Canadian Malartic and Detour Gold. Those were operating mines though. But it's like, yes, these possible tier 1 deposits, especially in a case like this, I mean, their grades were like, what was it, 10 to 50 million ounces of 0.9, I think, to 0.08 grams per ton. I mean, it looks like Snowline could have upwards of, possibly upwards of 10 million ounces at a grade of 1 to 2 grams per ton. And that could be, much larger if you include the halo, which would be lower grade. So, I mean, I don't think these targets are unreasonable at all, actually, when you look at how valuable and how sought after tier 1 deposits are. And again, it's like if sentiment wasn't this bad, I think Snowline would already probably be over $1 billion today. And I think that, again, makes kind of sense because it looks so good and so big. So this is why I makes it a lot easier to hodl and actually buy, and especially buy if nothing has changed. No additional news release, no decrease in value through new news out that actually decreases the value of the company. It makes it a lot easier to buy the dips, because until we get news, negative news, etc., the things we know about the targets, that same goes for Goliath, obviously. Nothing has changed. So if price goes up 10% today, or 10%, or down 10%, with no news out, nothing has changed. And of course, there might be better news, and these targets might be actually increased. But it's a good way to just again think of the hodl, because like nothing. Goliath has not yet put out any new assay results, at least. But still, price is up a bit. So it's like, I have no idea when these stories, like Western Alaska, I shall talk a bit about later, or Snowline, I mean, again, unless something else happens, I mean, I see no reason why this shouldn't just, climb higher, based on what is currently known. So I don't know when the market cares. I don't know when people feel like, hey, I feel like take some risk today. So that makes it much easier to hodl. And it's like Magna Mining, which I wrote a case about not too long ago. This was my value range based on the deal with Mitsui and my expectations for the Denison project, which is yet to close, unfortunately. I'm just waiting for that to close, because when that closes, I think Magna Mining would be probably the cheapest nickel junior round, at least that I know of. Now I don't know too many, but it's like, yeah, I think that fair value range is somewhere up here, 119 to I think 143, and it's trading for $0.32. So I mean, I'm not really discouraged by that, because I know Mr. Market is completely out of his mind right now. And typically, my biggest regrets in junior investing is when I have reached a conclusion of what I estimate the fair value of a good story is, and I buy it, and nothing happens, nobody cares. Let's say I, keep explaining the story, nobody cares, and sooner or later I might give up or become paranoid that I must be wrong, that Mr. Market is right. Typically what has happened is that as soon as I've sold out, let's say, a very good story that I think is undervalued, and I start to doubt that because the price hasn't agreed with me, Mr. Market has not come around to my way of seeing things yet, I chicken out. I don't have the patience, or yada yada yada. And still, what typically happens is after I, let's say, sell out some, or maybe sell out the whole position, it starts to go up. And those are the things I actually get pissed about, because those are actually obvious mistakes. If I lose money in a good story where I understood the risks, etc., I don't get pissed off by that, because I again, it's like one result doesn't say much. You can only judge your cumulative results over a 10-year period and see if you did better or worse than average in terms of decision making. But what gets me pissed off is when I pissed at myself is when I actually sell out, let's say, of a good story because it hasn't agreed with me yet. Mr. Market hasn't agreed with me yet, and then it revalues higher, because then I know it's like, yeah, it was my impatience, my lack of conviction, let's say, or mostly patience actually, and I missed out, and for good reason. The whole point is that, the whole point is to buy when Mr. Market does not agree with you and wait until it agrees with you. And if you skip the hodl until it agrees with you, how are you going to make any money? So that's just, again, that's my own fault. So nowadays I'm much more, I think, more patient. It's like I had no idea Goliath was gonna rip today. I just know that I love the story, so I've been hodling, etc. I'm gonna hodl a big position in Magna because I think, again, assuming the deal closes, I think the value range is somewhere between 119 to 143. Now I can't guarantee that, nobody knows, but that's my estimation. And Western Alaska, they have a stated goal of ending to the 2023 campaign with 120 million ounces of inferred. And given the grades they have, that would put them on par with Silvercrest Metals. They have that in reserves, it's well drilled out, it's, they're in production, I think, actually, even. So yes, a lot more de-risked, but similar grades, possibly similar size, from around, I don't know, 1.2 kilometers of strike, perhaps, or what they're drilling now, or maybe actually less, to get on par what Silvercrest was valued at, I think, 2 billion during the 2020 high. And that was obviously less advanced back then. And these guys, Western Alaska, could have that kind of deposit size, at least inferred, after next year. So if we just take Silvercrest at 1.3 billion, that would put this is undiluted though, a Western Alaska target price of $28.7 per share. Again, inferred, so not risk adjusted and undiluted, but it's like that's 830% higher. No, actually more than that, because the price is down a bit today. 886%. And that's just from the, I don't know, first 1.2 kilometers of the first CRD trend they have. It could be way bigger than that. They have the footprint of, some of the largest CRD systems. They're at, 35 million tons or something. I think Silvercrest has like, 4 million tons of reserves or something, and still, that was valued at close to 2 billion. So I think, like with the other stores, huge runway for growth, and that's what I think. Why I think Western Alaska has a CRD system that looks unusually good. Let's say, tier 1 potential in the silver space. Snowline Gold has tier 1 potential. I think Goliath has tier 2 to tier 1 type potential in the gold silver space. All of those are pretty unique, and all of those have potential value creation curves that are obscene in just the next 12 months. So why do I care? This is why I think, looking at the metals and stuff like that is a bunch of noise, and every time right now people are looking at the pivots of the Fed and rate hike and inflation, whatever. If these companies, if Goliath probably, I wouldn't say probably, has an inferred resource of 5 million ounces after this field season, like high grade, thick stuff, etc. That is gonna have a way bigger impact than if gold goes down $100. The value creation from that, I don't know, what could that be worth? Like $1 billion? and they're at, I don't know, 110 million now, not undiluted. But like, I hope you get what I'm saying. It's like, if you're even wrong, if metal prices go down and some of these stories turn out even close to, like, you know, I mean, blue sky is way higher than 7 million ounces in this case, but that will of course take a few years. But it's like, metals could probably be down and you could multi-bag if one of these stories turn out well. If gold and silver bottoms around here, then, you know, Jesus, then you'll just, you know, then you'll make a lot money, or a lot more money. Same for Snowline. It's like, after this season we'll probably have a pretty good idea of if we're talking, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 million ounces. And who knows, maybe they'll find something at Gracie just from a few holes. I doubt it, but it's like, yeah, possibilities there. And they have, you know, I don't know how many targets, 30 targets to test, cashed up, yada, yada, yada. I mean, it's ridiculous that you can buy one of the best stores around at 350 million. And I wouldn't say it's that risky. I mean, just looking what they drilled so far, I think it's unlikely that they will not end up with at least 10 million ounces. It's not like it's a, you know, long shot of getting there. Yeah, and Magna Mining, of course, you know, closed the deal, etc. One of the most advanced nickel PGM projects. Superb management, superb skin in the game. 2 deposits actually, both are, like, you know, permitted for production pretty much. So can't get more de-risked than that. And they're both deposits are, you know, in the Sudbury camp of Canada, near smelters and mills and everything. So yeah, and just to mention, I mean, other stores like SK Mining, for example. I think SK Mining is still a bit more wait and see now. I'm not inclined to add, because I don't know what the results from this season is gonna be. I really have absolutely no clue. They might be good, mediocre, or bad. I really don't have an idea. So it's kind of, given that it's 30,000 meters, they'll undoubtedly hit something. So I don't know. I should probably be adding here. Simply because it has gone down quite a bit, so it's like less is priced in anyway. Yeah, it's just hard right now. It's like so little, you know, money, dry powder, so many good stories around, that it's, I have way more good cases, I think, out there than I have money. As simple as that. Yeah, so thanks for listening. Obviously, this is not investing advice. You have to make up your own mind. I don't share your profits or your losses. Consider me biased, since I own shares of all companies I mentioned. And I think that, well, not pure gold mining. I think that most, if not all, are sponsors as well. So again, do your own due diligence and only ever buy a stock if you understand why you're buying it. Otherwise, you're gonna end up making mistakes. I mean, even if I end up making mistakes even if I know why I bought a stock. And it's like these visualizations, etc., is mostly just to keep me in the game. It's like to actually be greedy when others are fearful. Because yeah, I think this sector is totally out of whack. And you can't trust Mr. Market at all, because it's depressed right now. If this was 2020 at the high, maybe Goliath would be trading at $4 already. It's like, yeah, stuff like that, and that might not even be, you know, expensive based on what we know. So sorry, right now the price, the current price relative to the expected future I see for base case future I see for a few of these juniors. Yeah, I think they're, you know, for me they're pretty obvious buys, even though there's no guarantee that any single one will become what I hope. It's just that in this case, given the rather remarkable upside in some cases, I think any of these stocks could basically alone save the entire portfolio in the next 2 years if one of them does what I hope. So yes, there's risk, etc. It's just that I don't need every single one to play out like I hope. That's the risk-reward approach. I'm not after guarantees. I'm after hopefully probable upside at a slow risk as I can. Thanks for listening. Bye.